welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Today's episode is episode 9 of season 2, The Satan Pit, the conclusion of the impossible planet. The pit has opened. Can the Doctor defeat the Legion of Ood and stop Satan from leaving his black hole prison? This episode is written by Matt Jones, directed by James Strong, and it originally aired on the 10th of June 2006. It was watched by 5.5 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce who else is here.
Hi, this is Josh.
This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Auburn.
Hey, this is the other girl, Kelsey.
Hi, this is Brian.
Frank here. And I wanted to mention that you said it was June 10th,
Yes.
2006, which was the same week of June 6th, 2006, so 666. Okay, yes, I know that's a bit of a stretch.
Not a stretch. That's creepy. That's on purpose, right? That's gotta be on purpose.
I would think so.
That's gotta be on purpose.
Somebody's plan.
Intentional.
Last episode, we left off with the Doctor and Ida deep inside the planet, and Rose and Jefferson on the station, with infected Ood moving toward them. Jefferson opens fire, killing the 3 Ood. Danny joins them, and they lock out more Ood, but are now stuck where they are. Captain Zachary is trapped on the bridge, but tells them over the intercom that the planet's orbit has stabilized.
But by the way, before you keep going, why did it stabilize? Because why did it start to fall apart right at the end of last episode and right at the beginning of this episode? It stabilizes. It's like, well, that was convenient
Very
for a little
convenient.
adding cliffhanger tension. Just stops for now.
Maybe the opening of the pit just threw it off for a little bit.
And then it settled.
I mean, I do think that's
because
what
of
happened.
The planet wasn't gonna fall.
Right. We just waited a
into-
week to find out that information.
Yeah.
That's my kind of point. It's like the writers wrote this cliffhanger
Yeah.
and then went, oh, okay,
We're
no
fine.
consequences of that.
Well, that's my problem with all these Doctor Who 2-parters, if we're talking about this now, is that the cliffhanger always wraps up by a minute and a half in.
Well, I have to start thinking about that now.
That's one of the reasons why I've been very hesitant to say that these 2-parters ever live up to the first part, because you're right, you wait a week, and then the thing that kept you,
On the edge of your
the
seat.
thing that caused you to tune in, the next episode wraps up in a nice little bow. However, I will argue later on that this one doesn't do that.
But that Peril is such a old standard
Oh, yeah.
type
Oh,
of
yeah.
thing with Flash Gordon. back in the
Serials.
I remember a few years ago watching something that had a lot of cliffhangers at the end, and I was just like, oh, so you put the beginning of the next show at the end of this one. That's all they're doing.
But then change something that you didn't see on
Slightly.
camera last time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly
That's
what
all
they
they're
did in
doing, is
Classic
that-
Who. Is
is
the
the-
first 2 minutes is
Yeah.
the last 2 minutes of the previous. Yep.
Captain Zack is able to contact Ida and the Doctor and orders them back to the station. However, they want to send them down there and investigate the open Satan pit.
They want to stay down there.
It's
Stay down there. Yes, they want to stay down there and investigate. Zack insists and tells them he is initiating Strategy 9, which would open the airlocks, eliminating the Ood. The Doctor tells Rose that he and Ida are coming back to the station. Jefferson aims his gun at Toby, but Rose reminds him that the writings have left Toby's skin and transferred to the Ood. Jefferson reluctantly backs off, but states he will kill Toby if he sees anything odd about him.
Again, very consistent character traits with Rose, protecting people.
So it's convenient that, he only has one bolt in the bolt gun.
Yeah.
Gee, what is that going to be used for? Can one bolt do anything?
Whose job was that? To
bolt
keep
gun.
that bolt gun refill. Who used it and then was like, oh well, there's one left. I don't need to refill it now.
Maybe it was that girl who got killed in the beginning of the episode.
Scooty.
Scooty. Or no, there's some girl who gets... Oh,
Scooty.
did you not even get, no, beginning of this episode.
Oh, yeah. No, that happens right away.
Happens right away.
It's like
That
just to
was
remind us that the Ood can kill
kill
people
people.
with their
orb.
communication device.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
it was,
the extras that just kind of show up and you go,
Yeah.
where were you all along? Oh, yeah.
They were in the background.
I know, but
no names.
No names, no nothing, no introductions, just,
You're there to die.
Yeah,
You're
be
red
prepared
shirt.
to die.
red shirt, yeah.
But that bolt gun reminded me of a Nerf gun. I don't know if anybody...
That's true. Yeah.
Just get another foam dart and we're good.
And maybe it's a type of gun that only has one bolt at a time, and boy, wouldn't that be
No,
frustrating?
It looked like it needed 4.
Like a musket.
So at this point, we have our possessed person who seems to be back to normal. Now, do you guys think that he is back to normal or believes that he's back in his human identity, or is he still possessed but playing it as if he is no longer possessed?
It seemed very real. Like, it could have gone either way. Like, either he doesn't know he's still possessed or he wasn't. I don't think it was an act.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't think it was an act because he is freaking out. He thinks quietly to himself, but you do see him and he is terrified because he doesn't know what's happening to him. So I do think when the beast isn't active inside of him,
Toby's Toby.
Toby is Toby.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't know what's going on.
Agreed.
At this point, yes, I agree.
Okay. Just seeing what your all opinions were.
But it's interesting you said that at that point because I wrote the same thing down at that point in the show as well.
Yeah, Frank and I even discussed it too.
Yeah.
So.
When Rose hugs him, and then it's that shot to his face after, like, the reversal. I expected his eyes to turn red, and when they didn't, I was like, oh, okay, he's back to normal. But, like,
And of course we didn't.
Yeah.
Because again, you do
They
expect
could've.
it, but they kind of went against expectation,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, Toby's just freaking out and needs a hug.
So I just want to note one more thing in this section when at the beginning and Rose is asking the doctor, he said Satan, because that's the last thing we see before the end of the last episode is he's like listing off all the names that people know him by, and Satan was listed.
One of them, yeah.
And she was like, he said Satan, doctor. There's no such thing, right? This shows how much, like, Rose and we have come to rely on the doctor to know everything because he's seen everything. And we just expect, we're like, we turn to him immediately and we're like, well, what do you think of this, doctor? Is this true? Is this not true? And the doctor doesn't know, and he doesn't have an answer. He just doesn't even answer her. He doesn't say, I don't know.
And that's a theme that runs through this whole episode of the doctor not knowing things and how the doctor
Handles it.
Yeah. And I like that. That's one of the strongest parts of this episode to me is how the doctor is, well, that's why I continue to travel. But there's also a part of the doctor that doesn't like not knowing. So he's like, no, I'm supposed to know everything. And I don't know this. So.
Well, it's good you brought that up because I have that note too, but a different reaction. It's more like you have this thing that's kind of instilled with you that there's a good and a bad. There's God and the devil. And then now Rose is confronted with this is an actual thing that we're having to face rather than it being, like a spiritual, mental struggle. She's confronted with the physical embodiment of what that thing from her childhood is.
Or
And
as
I think it's-
opposed to like an alien that's completely new to her.
Yeah.
She's confronted with something that she's known about. Yeah. So that I imagine that could be very scary because it's like, oh, wait. Is this real then? Like,
Well, it's also the magnitude of that threat that there's really nothing that can stop the devil. You could stop an alien.
As they are about to bring up Ida and the doctor, the power goes down, and the beast voice ominously says that they are in his domain now. He is the one behind all the tales, myths, and stories of the devil. The disciples of light chained him to this pit before time began. The beast then speaks to each of the station personnel, telling them their deepest fears, but adds a prophecy for Rose. She will die in battle very soon. Everyone freaks out, but the doctor tells them that the beast is only playing with them. He says to listen to him instead. They are all amazing humans, to travel all this way just for discovery. They are stronger together and can use the beast's loneliness against him. Suddenly, the cable breaks, cutting off communication and trapping the doctor and Ida in the cavern below.
I love the doctor's speech here. It's what I like about the character.
I love what happens before the doctor's speech.
What's that?
It's after, so basically the beast comes back and the doctor gets to talk with it, which is cool. That's a cool moment. But then the beast gets in everybody's heads and starts, like the doctor
listing
says,
things.
starts targeting their like deepest fears and insecurities. And and then everyone panics. And I love the editing of this panic moment. I grew up watching another BBC series, The Chronicles of Narnia. And the one that this reminded me of was The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where the ship encounters the island where dreams come true. And at first everyone's like, oh, the island where dreams come true, this is great. And it's like, oh no, this is an island where your nightmare dreams come true. And suddenly the island starts affecting everybody. And it was the same editing where you were like, everyone was in their own heads. The camera is framed up close to their faces and you're cutting quickly and everyone's talking. Everyone's like reliving their worst nightmares.
Yeah.
And that's what this scene reminded me of. They're panicking. They're just in their own heads. And then, of course, the doctor comes over and calms everyone down. But, like, I don't know. I just thought it was a really good
Oh, yeah, for sure.
piece of editing and, like, I don't know, puts you in that moment of panic and sees the effect that this
And that's probably why
beast.
his speech is so, in my mind, great, because you get the down, like your downer. And then when he brings it back up, that's why it's so much more uplifting.
Also, in the audio mix, if you notice, while all that's going on and they're freaking out, it's very quiet, but there's organ music playing underneath that entire conversation to give it a church religious feeling to it.
Under the beast dialogue? Okay.
Yeah, and it's not loud. It's very, very minor, but it's definitely that organ, when you
Music.
music,
Pipe organs and stuff,
pipe organs and all that kind of stuff is playing underneath all of that as he's freaking them out.
I really like how when the doctor does come in afterwards, like you were saying, Eugene, how he's looking at the same situation and talking about everyone's attributes and how despite all these things that were just said bad about you, you overcame and became, successful at whatever you were trying to do in life, all the great things about you. So like the same person, the same personality can be looked at. It's all how you look at yourself.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it even affects the doctor as well, because earlier on, when Zach orders them back up to the ship and Ida and the doctor are discussing whether they're going to do it or not, the doctor is saying, I want to search. I want to search. I want to go forward. I want to go forward. I want to go forward. But maybe that's the beast. The beast is playing on how I'm going to react to this and want me to do that. So that's why he's like, in this instance, I'm going to take the safe path. So he's already figuring out what the beast is doing and manipulating them, and he's going to go against his own instincts to do the safe path.
Well, it's like when he says retreat, when they don't go in the hole.
Right,
The first
he's
time.
retreating.
It's like the first time we ever saw the doctor not do something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, Brian, that you bring up that's because he's already like
Playing.
strategizing
Yeah.
that, the beast wants me to go down and therefore
Right.
I'm not going to. I didn't think of it that way. I just figured, I was like, oh man, I think the doctor doesn't want to go down the pit. Like, this pit is scary. Like, if the doctor's too afraid to go down, like, I am really fearful of this pit at this point.
Well, I see everything in a very religious perspective. It's just, that's what I do. It's my work. So you have the beast telling everyone to be afraid, right? And then you have the doctor giving a speech saying, don't be afraid. And then the doctor sacrifices himself and goes down the pit without everyone else, even though he knows that it's not the right thing to do, because it's supposed to be retreat and that's what the beast wants. So does it not sound like the doctor is who in this?
Exactly.
The Christ, because the only thing that can defeat the beast that we're taught in Christianity is God. So God's representative on earth, or God on earth was Jesus. So Jesus is the one that had to die to be able to defeat Satan. So that's what the doctor's doing.
Hey, well, that's proved to be a very successful plot structure.
And the doctor does say, paraphrases, the fools rush in where angels fear to tread, in this line when they're talking about it.
And that's funny that you mentioned that the beast is saying, like, these are your fears, playing on the fears, where the doctor is like, no, don't be afraid. Like when angels ever come in the Bible, they're like, be not afraid. Just paraphrased differently.
But don't blink.
Yeah.
And I look at it. I see what you're saying, but I didn't see that until you brought it up, because I look at it differently. Because I look at it as the doctor, as the man of science, for lack of a better word, maybe knowledge, maybe fact, evidence. And that he's like, well, we combat the fear of this thing by finding out what's actually going on. And he overcomes his fear to go down into the pit, into the unknown, to discover the facts. And then once he discovers the facts, that's how we find out how we can defeat it.
And that's exactly what I saw, though. Even though they were going through the structure of Christianity, it talks about positive thinking over some God is going to save you. And the doctor's not your God. He's just looking at this in a more clinical way. And yeah, I don't know all the answers, but I'm trying to figure this out just as much as you are. So that's why I saw it. Like, the parallel was great. And it was kind of like, so if someone who was super religious, like my parents were, they would say, like, you can't watch this. This is the Antichrist. So, so it's just, that's that kind of idea. Like, the only one that can save you is Jesus. And they're like, no, it's like, use your mind, use your brain. You can be saved even from Satan.
Right.
The most evil, if you think about it.
I saw. Oh,
I was just going to say quickly that I wonder if that was pre-planned, or when you take these elements of good and evil and Satan, and you have someone whose role is to save the other people. Well, look at that! Look what happened. It was a happy accident that when you put those elements together, you get the same story.
I can kind of see that too. It's just classic storytelling. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it's definitely there.
Oh,
You can definitely see it, but I just wonder how they came about it.
It's a tale as old as time.
Older than time.
and this is.
Beyond time.
Before time. Yeah.
I mean, this is a religious episode, and I'm not denying that, but I'm looking at it more from a psychological point of view of the manipulating that the beast is doing and trying to get you to just be in your own head and in your fear and doing all that. And the doctor's saying, don't let that decide for you. But he's still acknowledging it. He's still acknowledging, fools rush in. And he's going, this may be pulling me. This may be a manipulating effect. But he's still going to do it because he chooses to do it. It's not just, don't do it for the same reason as, fear would make you hide away. Don't just do it because you're afraid. So you're going to do the opposite because you're not going to let it rule you. He's actually thinking through it all.
Yes.
He's thinking through, going, even Ida, why isn't the beast coming out of the hole? The hole is opened. And he's like, well, maybe we unlocked the prison, not the cell. It's still trapped down there. That's why he wants us to go down. So having that knowledge helps him make that decision, going, okay, I can go further, but I'm not doing this just based on emotions. I'm not doing it to fight the fear or because of fear. It's like,
He definitely makes a contemplated decision.
yes.
and so I think that's his most poignant point.
Yeah.
is a lot of things are going on. The religion's going on, the fear's going on, the admiration of humans for everything. But use all that, but think it through.
Yeah.
But what does he say right before he lets go of his line? Faith.
Well, we're not there yet, but yes, but he does say that. We'll get there.
Fall.
I do see, because most people will say religion's just early primitive psychology. And so having good psychology is the way that you beat evil, because even the evil one that's down there says, well, the memory of me will haunt you.
Right.
So it's just psychology. It's you're creating this in your mind.
I thought you were going to say that religion is the opiate of the masses, but you went a different way.
Hey, someone should write that down. But before we go on, I just don't want to make another quick thing about the doctor. And the doctor does another up with humans speech. And this time Rose is kind of doing it too, where, when she's giving everybody their things, we're going to be able to make this all work out. But, have we not?
Not quite.
He's about to get there.
We're about to get there.
But he does give his, humans, look at what you did. And it's kind of, goes all the way back to Eccleston and saying one tiny little island says no during World War II. And you guys are great about that. So he's very much loving humans in this episode, while at the same time going, you guys are nuts. And I just think the writing is really well done, where that gives that balance where it's like, I love what you guys do. Now get out of here.
The Ood begin breaking into secured rooms on the station. Rose says they need to stop the Ood, get out, or both. Captain Zack remembers the rocket has an independent power supply. They reroute energy and regain power. Rose organizes the rest of the team to focus on their areas of expertise to get them out. Toby working on the translating of the writings, Danny working on the controlling of the Ood, and Zack and Jefferson working on a way out.
Is this where they mentioned the Torchwood Archive?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the first. Well, it wasn't in last episode, but it's in this episode,
Yeah.
or this episode arc. If you,
Yeah. So the
Story arc.
station. So the station is part of Torchwood. We still don't know what Torchwood is beyond
Right.
the house in
But
Scotland.
we want to mention every time they mention
Oh,
it.
absolutely. No, I'm just saying. Trying to remember back when you first saw this episode,
Yeah.
it was like, what is Torchwood? So,
So in that earlier speech, when the Beast was talking about that he's from before time, is that what he said?
Beyond time?
before time.
Before time, and the doctor's like, what does that even mean? Like, I thought, like, well, yeah, Time Lord wouldn't even understand the concept of before time. Like, his whole thing is about time. So he's not only skeptical, but it's sort of the first time the Doctor, again, another first to the Doctor in this episode where he doesn't compute what someone's saying. Like, that never happens. But if your whole existence is about time, I found that very interesting.
Yeah, he says, "Oh, beyond the universe, I can relate to."
Right.
time.
But beyond time, that doesn't make any sense. And it's a great little Doctor-ism, his own limitation.
And then they go into the ventilation shafts that are huge.
Yeah.
But that's also a religious perspective that God and Satan exist
Beyond-
outside of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I really do like about all this section is that Rose does not need the doctor, and she's doing it all on her own.
And she gets everyone on track.
Yes.
Well, she steps into the doctor's shoes. Like the doctor gets cut off, and Rose just picks up where he left off.
Yep.
I think I take
And
it one step
even-
more and say she has her own shoes now. She's
Yeah, I
not
would
filling in the
agree.
doctor.
I think-
She's deciding on her own
Yeah,
what's
well, I
going
was
on and
gonna
not trying to
say-
imitate. No, I know.
No, I was about to say she is the doctor, but
Okay.
I was like, well, I don't want to say she's the doctor. But she
Dr.
can very
Lyman.
easily step into that role and take
Right.
over
Leadership.
when he's absent. Together, they are their own stuff
Right.
of legend.
Yeah.
They're separate. She is now, and if there's a word for it, I would assign it a mature companion.
Yeah, and I don't think she's trying to imitate what would the doctor do.
No, not at
This
all.
is her own
No, yeah,
idea
she
of
doesn't
what
even
to do
say
and how to
that, yeah.
motivate.
Which she has said in the past. She said, what
Right.
would the doctor do? But now she just does it.
But she's like, she knows that what the doctor would do is like, how do we will have to get out of this? But how to motivate the people, how to talk to them, that's
Right.
Rose communicating
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah, I agree. Do agree with you,
Right.
Frank, that she's come into her own. But in this scene, she kind of is mimicking
Okay.
the doctor.
No, I think
But
that
I-
she's come into her own shoes of as a leader. She's like, this is what the doctor would have wanted us to do. And that's different because she thinks, well, we'll get there, but it's a different perspective. And it's kind of like in the memory of, I'm taking care of a situation. And like anyone who has great mentors, even as a good leader and as you're leading things on, you remember your mentors and what they would have done in those situations. And they become part of you. But she's still a part of her mom because if you see the way she acts and talks to people, it's kind of more like, hey, what are you doing? How can I help you? Let's push you. More like pushy, like her mom. So you kind of see all of that in her personality that's like developing and becoming a great individual. So
Because she is still distinctly Rose, because when she's talking with Toby, she says, well, have you worked on the writings? Have you translated anything? And he goes, I can't translate anything. And she waves her hand. She's basically saying, you're useless. I'm done with you. And she turns away. And then Toby feels bad about seeing that reaction. He's like, well, okay, I'll try again. And so she did kind of write him off. And kind of like, you're useless. And I also kind of think that she's telling him to translate the writings just to give him something to do that will get him out of everybody's way. But she does stop. She does I'm not going to keep fighting you. And sometimes the doctor would do that, but I think the doctor wouldn't have written him off so quickly.
I think the doctor would have, especially Eccleston. But when he says, well, maybe they make more sense now that I've had him, then Rose becomes more Rose. You can help. You can try something. I don't think it's just dismissing him to, you go work on cleaning the windows. So you're doing something. Here, hold the coats. You're not that. But I think validating him is talking to the common person that she always does and saying, you can participate. You can do something. So I think that was idealistically Rose and telling him, you go do that and give him a little bit more encouragement.
And writing wise too, it's a way to have the doctor in two places at once, which is what they needed
for this
episode.
Right.
So we need the doctor motivation scene, but the doctor's down in the pit. Well, we'll have Rose do it. And now that she is a mature character, they can
She
have
can
her
do
do
that.
it.
Yeah. when we were talking, it reminded me of when they're going first down into the elevator, and she's like, "Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe." And then Captain Zach like, "Please stay off the comms." And he's like, "Fat chance." And like Rose, season 1 Rose wouldn't. She'd be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'm off the comms." But this one is like, yeah.
I did like the cavern, since you just brought up the cavern. I thought the look and the design of the cavern was still really good.
Yeah, the cavern was great. They devise a plan to shut down the Ood. They need to access the Ood habitation hub by way of underground tunnels. Zack says he might be able to follow their progress and manually add air section by section as they go. Meanwhile, Ida decides that since their air is running out and they can't go back to the station, she should go down into the pit to see what caused all of this. The doctor persuades her that he should go, and they tie the cable from the elevator to him and lower him down.
I think this is a section where he's talking about the urge to jump, and then
Ida
says, "Oh well, that's she gives that primate theory." Is that the real theory?
Yeah.
Well, it's a theory. I've heard
Okay,
that.
because
Yeah,
I find
I've heard
that,
that.
as someone who feels the urge to jump on heights, and one of the reasons why I don't like high things, I find that very comforting. And then the doctor almost immediately dismisses, like, well, that's too kind. And I mean, that may be talking about his reasoning for what he was feeling, but I was like, oh, that's nice. Oh, thanks a lot. Like, I was just a little miffed that he just dismissed that.
Well, I think he dismissed it more that, like, yes, that may be true, but in this
Yeah.
instance, we're dealing with a supernatural,
Right.
a superpowered being or something like that causing this. It's more the urge to fall, not to jump. What I also like about this scene is the dynamic between the Doctor and Ida. And then it made me think, like, he kind of turns almost everyone into a companion when he's alone with them. Never does it feel, except for that one guy. What's his
Adam.
Adam, yeah. I always feel that there's like almost an instantaneous bond between whoever he's alone with.
And I think that was Ida. I think Ida is the epitome of who the Doctor likes or what he likes about humans. You know, that she decided, okay, we're out of air. There's nowhere to go. Let's find out. Let's continue. It's
Right,
not
right.
freaking out or
Nothing to
self-pity and all that. It's just like, we're moving forward. And from the beginning, I just think there's a connection between him and Ida, going that she had the qualities he was looking for in humans. I mean, I get your point. And yes, being with the Doctor usually elevates everybody to their best.
Going back to the conversation that Ida had with him about the kind of primate urge to jump, and then earlier at the pit, we had the Doctor's speech about how humans have this thing in the back of their heads, you know, that urge to do something. I find it interesting because the Doctor isn't human, and I think we've had other episodes where he has related to like the apes or whatever. Maybe it was other aliens referring to humans as apes, but you know, the rest of the show has been very careful about keeping the motivations and the desires of the Doctor and humans kind of separate, because the Doctor isn't a human. He has different motivations and he has a whole different, you know, background than people. And I was just the speech where, you know, he was empathizing with Ida's desire to go, like it almost felt like it was he was too close to her feelings, because I don't think the Doctor would actually have that same kind of push in the back of his head that he respects in humans. And I think that needs to be separate, because if it wasn't separate, if he didn't find that something admirable about humans, because it's not something that is in the Time Lord psyche the same way, like that almost makes his relationship to humans different in a way that I don't like. Like, I like that he's different, but has this respect for humans traveling out to the edge of the solar system or the universe, traveling out to the edge of time. And that's something that I don't think the Time Lords are supposed to have.
That's the thing. The Gallifreyans don't have that. Gallifreyans, Time Lords, were very insular. They stayed on Gallifrey and they just like were the policemen, right? But they didn't investigate, they didn't search, except the Doctor. That's what makes the Doctor different from all the other Gallifreyans, and that's what makes the Time Lords not like the Doctor, because the Doctor has this sense of adventure, this sense of finding things out, going and poking a hornet's nest. Whereas Time Lords wouldn't do that. The Doctor will. And I think that's why the Doctor likes humans. Because this is a whole species that has that same urge that I do. It is me. I am going out and I'm going to find out everything I can about this universe and every other universe, but not before time, because that would be silly. And so I think he sees it, and it's something he relates to.
But I think the traveling out is for different reasons. Like humans travel out to find things we don't know, to discover new things, to boldly go where no man has gone before. You guys have turned me
You
into
made that Star Trek reference.
It was not me this time.
acknowledge that. You can turn me into a nerd.
This is a historic day. Kelsey made a Star Trek reference.
And properly.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but in this scene, this is where as he's descending down the pit, that we learn why the Doctor travels, and it's not to discover things he doesn't know about, but it's to prove himself wrong. Is that what he says?
Yes, but I see that as the same thing.
He does also, I think, that one part that we watched again, I think that is also part of his desire, is to find the things that he doesn't know yet. Like, that is part of his belief. He believes in the things he hasn't discovered yet.
It challenge his own assumptions. He wants to challenge his own assumptions. He doesn't want to accept the status quo. So he's going to go out there, and if he's proven wrong and that everything he's believed doesn't make any sense anymore, this is the Doctor. He's going to love that. And he's going to learn about how things really are. And so I think that's why the Doctor travels. And this is, wait, I'm being confronted with the fact that the devil may exist and actually be the devil in a religious aspect. And that's not something that he would ever have considered before, because to him, it's a myth, But he is also talking about, in all the cultures and planets, there is this running theme of horned creature. The image of Satan that we have exists all throughout these other planets. So he's trying to figure out what that means.
And I think just piggybacking off of what Brian is saying, that is kind of the difference between religion and like Enlightenment scientific ideals, is that oftentimes in a religion, when you study or when you try to dive deeper into it, it's often to reinforce your beliefs already. Whereas the Enlightenment scientific discovery, it's to find out where you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be wrong. You want your assumptions to be wrong, so that way you can have the opportunity to then learn and to discover what is the truth.
Yeah. Sometimes in science, you learn more from a failure
Right.
than from being proven right.
I did like that he mentioned like all these random religions that we've never heard of before. So it's,
Pash Pash.
yeah. So it's like, which one are you?
Neo-Judaism and...
Congregational something.
And yeah, Ida is neoclassical congregationalist
That's
or
right.
something.
The Ood are about to break in as the group, led by Rose, crawl through the tunnels or ventilation shafts.
Tunnels. They're not ventilation
They're
shafts.
not ventilation shafts.
Nice
They're
reference.
maintenance tunnels.
They're maintenance tunnels that robots
I know,
crawl
but-
through. That's why they're that big.
I know, but I'm
What
like,
was the joke? What was the
What joke?
joke that we didn't get the joke because the guy says, "Oh, we have to go up the ventilation shafts," and Rose acts like he made a joke or something.
He says maintenance tunnels. Rose says ventilation shafts, and then he says nice reference.
What's the reference?
it's a sci-fi reference. There's
thought-
always
I thought
ventilation
always
shafts.
ventilation
Always
There's always ventilation shafts.
Okay.
Die Hard from
Alien.
Aliens. There's always
Star
something
Trek.
like that.
To Toy
Always.
Story.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So I took it as that.
Okay.
As a
But
pop culture sci-fi reference.
They really write into this that these are not ventilation shafts.
So that's why I made that joke.
But they perform the exact same function.
Yeah.
Come up to the coast. Why don't you laugh?
Shoot the glass. The Ood follow, and Jefferson begins shooting them to give the others time. They must close off the previous section and remove the air before continuing, and Jefferson doesn't make it through. Zack opens the last section's door, but there are more Ood waiting there. They scream for him to close the door and exit through a grate above them. Toby, who still has the devil inside him, silently orders the Ood to slow down and let them escape. They make their way to the hub terminal where Danny inputs the code that shuts down the brains of the Ood.
I'm going to miss Gorman. Sorry.
This is the Aliens reference.
Since this is our last hurrah of Jefferson, before we started recording, some of us had mentioned the effect of
The
him
muzzle flash.
firing.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think I understand why he's low on ammo, because I don't think he could hit anything. Gun is jumping.
I think he went to the Imperial Academy and got stormtrooper training.
No, the first Ood has 100 bullets in him. The second Ood's going, I can crawl over and be fine. Because this is a maintenance shaft and not a ventilation tunnel that's smaller.
That's just how you make a machine gun fire in with editing that doesn't actually fire in real life.
It just looks so bad.
It's like nice and bright. There's so many lights.
And this is where the whole episode loses it for me. I mean, I wanted more discussion of the religious aspect between the Doctor and Ida. I mean, they touched on it. I wanted a little more in depth. And then this just has that there are lights in it. There are ventilation grates in it. And when they get out, they just lift the grate.
Why?
It's like this area
That's
is
it.
supposed to not have air in it. It's not supposed to be connected by a grate.
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, so then he could have survived because there's air going through here. You didn't have to wait. He could have made it right through.
I mean, I can rationalize it, like everything else on the show, in that this station is made by kits.
By
It's
IKEA.
just standardization, because the Doctor says so the last episode.
Yeah.
And so this is either a ventilation shaft, which they are using as a maintenance service, which they can cut off, except for the entrance on either end, that they need a...
I speculate
Airlock.
that the set designer did not fully interpret the
What?
script properly.
Yes.
And then that ventilation shaft versus tunnel line was made on the set. And they just made everything work. Because also, too, I don't know if you noticed, there's a bunch of cutting that basically, to me, was blatant. That door doesn't open.
Right.
Because they cut around it opening.
And they were
all of
going
a
back
sudden
and forth
someone
in the
was in
same
there.
set back
Only
then.
one door opened on one of the sets. So they would be turning it, then they would cut away, and they would cut back, and the person would be in there. The gun didn't really fire. There was all this stuff there was a lot of brilliant editing to get it done. But
You can see the...
Right.
I bet you someone
cracks.
somewhere was just like, wait, these can't be ventilation shafts if there's grates. Oh, you're right. And then, well, how are we going to fix this? We got to just have them say this. All right, it works. And don't shoot up. Shoot the camera up, that is. Don't show up. I bet you it was a challenge to put this episode together, and they did a good job considering all that stuff.
Because we haven't really gotten there, but I think most of the money for this episode went to the creature. That's
a
why
good
they
point.
skimped
Yeah,
out on
that's a
like the
good
muzzle
point.
flashes. They couldn't have like
Right.
a blank shooting or the grates and the
They should have
ventilation
had a
shafts.
different kind of weapon then. It was
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
bad.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And when Jefferson didn't make it past the one door that does actually work, it's a reference back to the episode Dalek.
With
when
Rose.
didn't make it past. I guess it wasn't fast enough.
But
a bit
Adam
slow.
made it, left her behind.
The Doctor has come to the end of his rope and still hasn't reached the bottom of the pit. He decides to fall the rest of the way and detaches himself from the cable. Rose reestablishes contact with Ida, who tells her that the Doctor is gone. He has fallen into the pit. Zack tells Ida that there is no way they can get to her and that they are abandoning the station, leaving her all alone. As they prepare to leave, Rose says she is staying and will wait for the Doctor, but they drug her and carry her to the ship. Rose wakes up as the ship leaves the planet following the gravity funnel. Toby is very, very pleased to be leaving the planet.
And this is what I was mentioning before, like when he was making the decision to
fall.
unhook himself. I'm pretty sure he mentions just having faith that
Yes.
his
I wrote that down.
speculation of that this could be okay, could only be 30 feet. I'm gonna trust that, and what we'll find out later, like why he did survive. There is a piece of the Doctor that kind of intuitively knows that something's gonna setting him up to be okay.
When common sense tells you not to.
Well, and Faith is all over this episode because at this point, Rose is not going to leave the station because she has faith in the Doctor. The Doctor's going to find a way out and he's going to save them all. And, well, we haven't gotten there yet, so I won't talk about the Doctor has faith in something. But that's all.
What do you think the Doctor was gonna Tell Rose.
Oh, she knows.
Oh, she knows.
Oh, she knows.
Just like a guy, you can't say I love you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah, it was totally that.
It's I love you, right? Okay.
I love you. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think so.
Really? That would seem so blatant on this one.
Like I felt
only
more
because-
like it's like tell Rose like that
She's
I'm
great.
there or she's been great or I'm there for her.
I think it was a culmination of everything.
See, I think if I was watching this episode for the first time, it would be what Arlene said. But because I watched the series to the end, I think it's what Frank said, that he was going to say, I love you.
But he had faith that he was going to make it out,
Yeah,
and
so
that's
he was
why
like,
he's like,
I'll
I don't
tell
need
her
to say
later.
it because he hasn't really made it out in his mind yet.
He's like, I'll have another time to not tell her.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like
Rose,
faith.
you're really in a coma, and this is all a dream. You were at work one day and got hit by a mannequin.
He would be
Saint elsewhere?
A commitment phobe if a commitment is for 900 to thousands of years.
Okay, when you're saying that the doctor's starting to figure out that there's a way that he'll be safe, I don't get that. I think this is so out of character for the doctor
Well,
to
he
let
did-
himself fall.
But he did speculate that it was only 30 feet.
But why?
Because he says it could be forever, it could be 30 feet, he doesn't know.
Right.
And it comes as a revelation later on in the episode of why he lived through the fall. Because we don't know if it's 30 feet. It could be 600 feet and still he's
I'm
safe.
saying-
I totally get that. But in the doctor's point of view, hanging there's only two choices: drop or be pulled back up and suffocate with Ida. Now,
And to me, doctor would always find the third alternative.
He usually does.
But the third alternative was, I'm just going to let go. I mean, I know it's the first alternative. Don't get me wrong, but I see the doctor as, I'm just going to do this.
No,
Well,
the
I
third
guess-
alternative would be to go back up, get that gravity light ball, and throw that down. So you can see more. It just seems.
Or he could go
It
to
seems
the,
like it's more of a plot
or
device.
he could go to the side of the pit and go to the grate and crawl through the grate, and I mean, it's like I'm not saying it's the greatest writing in the world, but I don't think it's out of character for the doctor to drop.
But my point was that there's been a few things that didn't quite make sense already. He says, well, if we opened the door, why isn't he coming out? And then why is this? Well, if we're in a black hole, why aren't we falling into the black? So there's already been a number of things that haven't made sense to what you should expect.
But they've been explained
Yeah, but
well enough.
Right. Yeah.
And this motivation for him does. I mean, I understand what you're saying. The doctor would go forward. But to me, it's just somewhere this episode got lost, or writer got changed, or something went off, and this whole ending part for me ruins the whole episode. That's why I put it last time in a lower category, because there's so many holes. There's so many. Well, we just.
But it's not a
Leaps of
pothole.
faith, I
It's
guess, in
faith.
this.
Then that's what it is. I think they really wanted to go through its faith, and the doctor does do things out of faith, like in his character, like the child, the not where's my mama?
Empty
or-
child?
the empty child one. He goes, stop, go to your room. He's like, well, that worked,
He takes a chance.
He takes a chance and he just kind of gets that opportunity. And then he's like, you know what? I don't see any other way out. Now it's time to take that leap. And it's just kind of going to that whole thing. It's like when you're stuck, take a leap of faith.
Or, and this just came into my head, is it the devil's influence that he has to fall, like he said at the beginning before going into the pit?
Maybe.
That feeling's there, and now that he's getting closer, maybe he's giving into that
I am the
feeling.
temptation.
It's possible.
But I think by the end of this show, this episode, we learn that going down there wasn't the devil's plan or Satan's plan.
No,
That
yeah.
was part of the protector's plan.
It was the other people's
Right.
plan.
Yeah. So maybe that. I agree, though, with Frank that there is enough problems with the writing here that either it is brilliant or it is not.
True, okay, I'll give you that.
not
Either that
find
we didn't get it because it's over our heads.
Right.
Like, a lot of what I'm saying is from the hindsight from the end of the episode.
Right.
Yes. And I agree with you. I also agree with Frank, but I think you're both right.
It's God telling him to go, and it's faith that makes him believe in God that's telling him to go. I don't know.
I think it's written in such a way that it can go. You
Either
can
way.
see it either way. I think I'm glad they didn't make a definitive decision in why these things happened. because that backs up the whole religious aspect of it in the first place.
Or the science aspect, depending on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you can see the same thing from both ways and make a firm decision on it either way.
And the thing that I think that bugs me most about this is that they don't give good arguments for both sides. I'm fine with them not having a definitive answer, as long as both sides are expressed well. And this touched lightly on things that I wanted to go more in depth.
I chalk that up to time.
But these 2 episodes are all talk.
No, I'm talking about in this half of the episode, like in 42
yeah,
minutes.
there's action in this part, but I do think in this episode there was plenty of time for them to rearrange dialogue. Because this is talk and talk and talk. I mean, watching it again, I couldn't believe how much talking goes on in this episode.
But if you follow the talk, there may there's a priority of what information you need to get out. So it could be like that. What you're talking about could have been, I hope we have time for that, but if we don't, we need this other stuff. Like without the first 2 things, you can't even get the story progressed. So it was probably one of the last things that was cut, things like that. I mean, I'm talking from a filmmaker point of view.
No, I understand, and I get that.
But I haven't gotten to the thing I hate most about this episode. So we'll get there.
Where is it that they named the beast?
As he was descending.
In
the fake
Oh, that's right.
darkness.
Yes, that's right.
What did they name it? Besides
There was a
the
lot
many
of different names.
Okay, I got it here.
Because we did want to...
Joe, Frank,
Thank
Sally.
Josh.
That was a little Freudian slip there, isn't it?
Frank's just my go-to guy name.
Okay, so the doctor mentions the planets are Draconia from Frontier in Space.
Yeah, these are mentioned in other
Damius,
episodes.
planet of the horned daemon, Azel, the Daemons. In the Daemons, the third doctor speculated that Daemons inspired the story of demons in Earth mythology. But then in this episode, the doctor also references to the god of Khalid, god of war. That's related to the Daleks and Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah, because the Khalids are the origin species of the Daleks.
And Khalid spelled backward is Dalek.
And also, jumping the timeline a little bit, but
Like Harpo and Oprah.
the son of this demon will appear on a certain spin-off show of Doctor Who later.
Say which one.
Torchwood.
Okay.
But we don't know what Torchwood is.
I know, but at least
I'm just
that's
saying.
We know
another
it's a spin-off
reference
show.
to it.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm just,
The doctor awakes at the bottom of the pit to find his helmet smashed. He is surprised that there is air down there. He finds cave paintings depicting the chaining of the beast. There are 2 urns that begin to glow, and behind them, a cavern with a huge horned beast chained to it. The paintings also tell him that if he escapes the chains, the gravity field will be destroyed and both the beast and the planet get pulled into the black hole. If he escapes, he dies. The doctor tries to talk to him, but he can't respond beyond animal-like growling. It is the physical body of the beast without intelligence. He deduces that the intellect has left and is now on the rocket ship leaving from the planet. He realizes that if he frees the physical beast, the body dies and the mind will die with it. But it will also destroy the gravity field, so the rocket and Rose will be pulled into the black hole as well.
No, I got an argument with that. What does it matter if the rocket's still in orbit or not? Like, he kills the beast, the mind dies. Like, whether they're not in orbit or wherever Toby ends up, right?
Oh, so he should just wait?
Yeah.
He's not going to take that chance.
Because then
What
Rose,
chance?
Because he possibly that the consciousness now can take over Toby if it's far enough away.
far enough away.
It might sever that link.
All right.
And it'll then just be inside Toby.
Okay, I accept that theory.
Also, and something could happen to the doctor and he wouldn't be able to break the urns. It's like you have the chance, just take it.
Yeah, but you didn't mention about the air cushion.
yeah, that's how the
That's what
doctor
we're talking
survives. We're talking.
We can talk about it. Yeah.
Now we can talk about it. I thought that was a neat idea.
There's atmosphere that's allowing.
And that's
yeah.
what allowed him to survive
It would cushion
fall.
possible
the fall
30-foot
of anyone
fall.
entering into the pit.
Yeah, so conceivably there could be some sort of plan
Right.
to why all of this is existing.
And if they could do a gravity well outside, leaving the
Planet.
rocket can go into. Not only is it atmosphere, it has gravity. So it could do maybe anti-gravity, slow them down, add the
That's
atmosphere.
true. Did he mention that?
No, I'm just speculating again with
right.
my own kind of... Because atmosphere, if you're falling from 600 feet, you're still going to splat.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Because they said 30 feet, but that's
We
not
don't
a
know.
given
Yeah.
fact.
Right.
It was enough that he crashed and his whole helmet shattered, the front plate of his helmet.
Without any scratches on his face.
Well, since we're here, I just want to talk about the fact that, I mean, I get the whole lore of Satan looking the way he does, but I could not get past that. What's the point of horns if you're an ethereal beast? Like, it's evolution-wise.
Right.
Like, there's no point in having horns, especially that they were so, like, ram-like even. It's a total aesthetic. Yeah.
It was a battering horn rather than a kind of attacking, gouging horn.
Yes, exactly. It just, to me, as a designer or whatever, I just thought, like, what's the point of that? Like, it makes no sense besides the fact, like, ooh, I'm scary, I have horns.
It's recognizable. That's the only thing.
Ooh, it's pretty.
No, I know. I know. It's an image to portray, but, like, if you're basing... And I guess this is an episode about, faith and myth versus science. But if you're basing a show in science, and that's why I watched the show for the most part, it just bugged me. I felt like it was a cheap and easy design choice.
But that was the point.
That's
The
how I
point
felt.
was the cultural image that Christianity has of the evil one is this beast.
That's persisted.
Yeah, that's persisted for thousands of years. And the Doctor is presented with the physical embodiment of that staring him in the face.
Right, but
so if he didn't look like the devil,
I get it.
if he looked like, Roddy McDowell, Fantasy Island reference,
I feel that, like you said,
it wouldn't have the impact.
If they were pointed horns but like they were horns that would ram, and I just thought, if you're the only one, who you gonna ram? Like
That goes back to the whole idea of it before time. He is an entity.
Right,
He is a being.
why
So it
would
could
you
be-
even have horns like that?
Because he may not have been the only one.
Yeah,
It
okay,
could have-
but-
and it could be still an alien.
Okay,
that
if
lasted,
that's the case,
so that
then I
was
get
something.
it. It was too close to Earthbound anatomy,
Right.
for me to not be bothered by it.
And I agree with Josh because that is actually modern Christianity that's created that look of Satan. The view and the perspective, that was just very much a cliche view of what we see.
But that's the point.
I agree with what you're saying.
But that's the point. I mean, 20th century and 21st century viewers are watching this show. So if he had put in the image of how Satan looks from the 900s, it wouldn't have the impact.
Yes, I agree.
I guess I found it to be a poor choice of horn.
Right. And I think it was just done for whoever the
Yeah,
artist team was.
It looked good.
Because they broke off part of the horn on one of them.
I like
on
that,
the
and I
right
liked
side.
how one of the horns had the chain around it. Like, I liked
Right.
how it looked. It just...
The design thing.
Yes.
But that whole scene was so much exposition and so much talking.
Yeah.
So much monologue of, okay, now here's all the information that we've been saving up for
Yeah.
2 episodes. Just went on forever. It just...
Didn't bother me this time.
bugged me
I remember
this time.
I remember. Oh yeah, this episode went with that ending. And then when I was watching it last night, it didn't bother me. Maybe because I already knew it was coming, or
I was thinking they could have done something where near the seal they could have had part of the translation from some other entity, some other creatures that have been here, that translated part of it from eons ago. That then he could understand and read.
all the information
To
came
get some
out.
of the information between him and Ida, have that part be more of a discussion as he's descending,
Yeah.
rather than listing and referring back to the classic Who, which is a nice tribute to the classic Who demons.
It's also a good album.
But to delve into more of it, I think they could have put some of that exposition there.
And then cave paintings is what described it. I'm like, really? Cave
Yeah.
paintings?
You have all this writing that you don't understand, but yeah, the pictures. Right.
But you have cave paintings. That's
And they have the whole civilization that makes the cavern look so good with those stone beams.
So I think a lot of this episode,
Statues.
from the air ventilation shafts to this, that it was a very, I guess, cliched tropes that tend to always work.
And they just mashed them up.
And they just mashed them all up. I mean, they all work. That's why everyone always uses them. I enjoyed watching this again, which I wasn't thinking I would because of what I was just talking about.
And to be honest, when we watched this episode, we also watched the first one where you didn't have to analyze, you just could watch it. And I liked it better than I did when we reviewed it last week. So it is good, but this ending part, this whole section just, to me, taints everything.
I disagree. I don't know.
Good,
I love this scene. And I like Tennant's acting in this scene.
Oh, he could sell anything.
And for me, this scene is the scene that made Tennant my doctor. up until this point, I was still mourning
Eccleston.
Eccleston's
Can't even remember his name
departure. Yeah. Tennant's doctor, I didn't understand him. It was a little, I don't know, but this performance, Tennant's crazy, frantic acting, finally got used to it, or it finally made sense in this scene and solidified, and it worked. And from that point on, I was like, oh, he's awesome. So I like that scene because of that.
What helped it is all that jump cutting. I really liked.
They did
that
a lot of
frantic
jump cutting.
But I liked it. I thought it was really worked.
It suited his doctor.
Yes.
It suited what he was going through at that moment. I also like this scene too because this is where we get the doctor's faith. Because the doctor has faith in Rose. And this is where he's like, if I do this, I kill Rose. But this is Rose. She'll figure it out.
Yeah. And for me, this also makes me a fan of Rose. Hearing the doctor say that he has faith in her,
Yep,
and
I believe in
seeing
Rose.
her in the past few scenes like take charge and come into her own, I also now become a fan of her.
So regardless of what you think of the plot and the execution of these two stories, this is a great Rose episodes.
Yeah.
You know, this is great. This is where Rose, I think, is settled.
The broader story overshadows all the minor inconsistencies, and I'm able to I don't even notice them.
Yeah, that's like these. Like you said, like I agree with you about the cave paintings, but I liked it. It's like I liked all these things that I wouldn't think you should do.
So you like the cave paintings, but you hate the horns.
Yeah. Come on. I do.
What an artist.
Well, that's one thing I like about this podcast and talking to everybody is seeing or hearing the other points of view that you like this thing. So that's great. And that's something that is great about Doctor Who, that we can both watch the same scene and take it so
something else.
differently, which is
It's
great.
something for
So that gets me
everybody.
excited, and I'm really happy about that. So yay. And I'm wondering if maybe there were other species. So some did the cave paintings when they first did it, which was a lot more primitive. And then the other ones came along and added the writing and there are different layers.
I view it as this advanced race was writing the information
On a base
necessary
level?
at the most basic level. Kind of like I think an example would be on the
Was it
Voyager.
The disc.
On the Voyager space probe that we sent out, we sent a vinyl record,
A golden.
which can be used. All you need for that is a needle, a funnel, and spinning the disc. You don't need software, a computer, advanced technology. I mean, it's the most basic way of recording information that we could think of to easily. And I think this advanced race is like, well, we're not going to write,
Our language.
even though they did, their language is down there, but they're also like, we just need to get this point across as quickly as possible.
Right. Plus, the language wasn't even interpreted by the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Because it was beyond time.
Yeah.
Or before time. Or whatever.
Both.
And it was set up by the jailers for the air cushion
Yeah.
so that the person would kill
Survive.
them and everything would, if it's getting this close to being
Yes.
getting out,
Yeah.
the fail-safe to destroy everything. So they wanted to be able to give that information.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
I
I
get
guess
that.
that's why.
That's what I see it as.
And that's why the seal opened on its own when they approached it.
Because I knew there
the
would be
last
somebody
episode.
there to
They
go
didn't
in.
it wasn't like, don't open this seal. It was like, if you've gotten this far,
We want you to go
Get
down
down
there. Yeah.
This episode has, I know they used it at least once before. That one of my favorite music cues, that slow violin.
Yeah.
Cello.
Impossible Planet theme.
Is impossible. Which episode was that?
The one
Impossible
before this.
Planet.
Oh, it started in that episode. I probably even said that in our last episode. I'm an
Unless
idiot.
you're talking about two different music cues.
Anyway, it's
Isn't it
great.
the same?
Okay, we had
I
our
really
Star
like it.
Trek reference, and now we've had our Josh moment.
Yes, there you go.
Now we need a lame joke from Eugene.
Yeah, okay. I'm working on it.
Rose wonders why the beast didn't kill them and why he's letting them escape.
Oh, no, there was, Toby's going to her going, Rose, shut up.
Yeah, oh, that's
They're
right.
ruining my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But that no one else does think that. It's like she's still thinking, this doesn't make sense.
yeah,
This is not-
everybody else is just happy to be getting
At
away.
this point in the episode, I did think that earlier Toby was putting on an act. I think that it's just a perfect act because he's a supernatural being. I don't think he was
possessed and then not possessed.
And then not possessed.
Yeah, I like to think too that Toby was gone
Right away.
last episode.
Yeah.
Like he was gone as soon as that happened.
When he turned around.
Yeah.
When you turn around,
Yeah.
I'll kill you. And that's when.
But if the beast was controlling the Ood as well, right?
Yeah.
Why would Toby have had to shush them in the tunnel?
That was a quick signal to them to slow down
But why would he even have to signal to them if he's controlling both of them?
because it was a cool shot.
Yes.
Okay.
It's either brilliant.
Because it really
It
was
was
a
to
cool
reveal
shot.
that he is.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like that it was that they did that instead of, like you were saying, the cliched shot of someone hugs somebody and then
Yeah, because this was more, whoa. It was
Right.
for the viewer to go, oh my God. And
Or
just
maybe-
a reminder.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can sort of logic it out, where it's like, well, the Ood they have a simple one-track mind. Like he was controlling the Ood, but he was controlling the Ood, but he wasn't in their heads. He was just telling them what to do.
You answered your own question. I like this.
The doctor tells the beast that his plan may have worked if Rose was a victim, but she's not. He believes in her. He shatters the two glowing urns, freeing the body of the beast and destroying the gravity field. The ship begins to be pulled toward the black hole, and Toby reveals himself to be the beast. Rose shoots the forward window with that one
Nerf gun.
bolt and releases Toby's seatbelt.
That's the second Die Hard reference. Shoot the glass.
Shoot the glass. The vacuum sucks him out towards the black hole. Zack activates the emergency shield over the hole in the ship. The body of the beast begins to catch on fire. The planet has lost orbit and is breaking up. Ida is running out of air. The Ood, released from the mind control, are huddling together in a corridor of the station. The ship is shaking violently, unable to escape the gravity well. A massive quake throws the doctor aside, right to the base of the TARDIS.
How convenient.
Well, without the TARDIS, it's like, and now we cut as a cliffhanger for the next episode. Because everything's going wrong.
Right.
It's funny how I totally forgot about the TARDIS.
Yeah, you're not thinking about it.
Because even when it disappears in the previous episode, you don't see it disappear. They're just like, that section of the base is gone, and the
Yeah.
TARDIS just happens to be in there.
And we were talking a few minutes ago about how you just accept certain things or they don't bother you. The grating in the maintenance
Shaft.
tunnel /
Yeah.
ventilation shaft. It either bothers you or it doesn't. This one where he's thrown up against the TARDIS, I want to be bothered by it, and on a certain level I am, but at the same time when Tennant looks up and laughs, it's like,
Of course.
of course that happened, but you know what, you're selling it to me, and I'm buying what you're selling at that point, and it's just me. Other people can have some reactions.
I think there are other people around the table that agree with you.
No, I know, but you
Other
don't.
people are going, huh? I'm not.
Well, I think that's what it is. Like David Tennant's performance sells this episode to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And just then he looks
I
up and
bought
just
it.
starts laughing, and the music swells, and it's got the Star Trek camera shake going on, and it's just like, okay.
Well, I had faith because I knew the TARDIS was still around. Even before, like the very first time I watched this episode, I'm like, but the TARDIS is still around. He's going to be saved and everything's going to be fine. Doesn't matter. Like, so it's just the whole idea if you have that fail safe of the TARDIS, no matter what.
And in the last episode, they said they can't change the drilling. They can't divert it to go where the TARDIS was. So it's on a whole different area. To me, it was just too much. To me, it was just too much of, oh, yeah, there it is. Perfect.
I don't mind the location of the TARDIS at all because the TARDIS fell from only a few hundred feet from where the drill was. So they're drilling down, and when they got to that area, they walked around. He went down the pit. I mean, they couldn't have changed the drill to
No,
get to
agreed.
where the TARDIS was. But the TARDIS wasn't like on another continent.
I agree, but it's still just so too convenient. It's too much.
This just popped into my head. If the TARDIS is alive, maybe the seal opened and the TARDIS went through. That's why it's the same place that Tennant was.
Or maybe like R2-D2 just waddled all the
Yeah.
way there.
Maybe.
It's like, no.
I don't know.
The TARDIS
No.
has a mind of its own. It does what it wants.
No. We have never seen the TARDIS walk.
I'm not saying it walked. It fell through and then whatever.
I totally imagine like those TARDIS dresses, and like the TARDIS really is just a dress and it lifted up and there's legs and it's still walking.
So if the TARDIS has that ability to go like that to where the Doctor is, we can't tell very many stories.
But seriously, I would have liked a little bit of debris around the TARDIS from the space station. That
We
would
got
have.
knocked loose during that last quake.
But we didn't. We just saw debris. I mean, like rubble. We didn't see like a
Yeah,
piece
but
of
you know what?
grating.
That same rubble was up in the corridors of the ship. So,
They couldn't use it.
all space stations, when there's rubble, look like rock.
They only had enough rubble.
Yeah. Again, they would have had to pay for it.
Either that, or it would have been like on its side and not upright. I'm just saying.
if it had been on its side, that would have been cool.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
And then he walks in and he's upright.
He just jumps in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
That would've been good.
I sort of do agree with you, but I kind of chalk that up to TV fun.
Yeah. I do too.
Agreed. But there's too much of TV fun. And in and of themselves, the ideas are okay. It's just
Yeah.
the transition for them, how many there are. It's like, why did the beast catch fire? And why did
Because that's
Toby
what
spit
happens.
fire out of his mouth? in
The
middle of it all?
spitfire out of the mouth. Oi.
That was rough.
Well, that was. I think. I mean, obviously, it's for an effect to bridge Toby to the beast, but like, all right, well, maybe we can have him spit fire. We have a little bit of fire out of his mouth. Will that make you happy?
Stop it. You're making me feel like I'm at work. I'm doing this for fun.
But Frank, you're making me dislike this episode. Just letting you know.
His work here is done.
Despite
Double
any,
work, I guess, right?
I enjoyed this episode despite any complaints.
But what you're saying, then maybe I should apologize to the writers. Maybe it was other influences that added into it.
But the fact of the matter is, it's still that this is the package they presented to us, and it affects you that
Right.
way. You know, like
I mean, it was, again, done well. It looked good.
why?
Why?
True.
It's just a stereotype of
Yeah.
the idea of the devil rather than what they're telling us of how the devil's ideas manifest through the hate and fear. And I don't know.
No, I agree.
He's
Just is.
made of fire.
There you go. And brimstone.
Forged in Mount Mordor.
Mordor?
Yes, it's different. Mounts because it goes with the religious aspects of it.
Mount Doom.
There we go.
Suddenly, the ship stops shaking and turns away from danger. The Doctor announces over the comm that the TARDIS is pulling the ship to safety, where he will exchange Rose for Ida, who he picked up along the way. But he couldn't save the Ood. The Doctor and Rose reunite aboard the TARDIS and send the rocket ship on its way back to Earth. Zack records the final log, giving honors to all those lost, including each of the Ood.
Yeah, that's nice.
That was very nice.
And then Ida asked the doctor what he saw.
I see it as an alien. I don't see him as masquerading as the devil. I see it's an alien, and that's it. It was just a
Adept
Dark
at
manipulating.
psychological warfare.
what we would classify as evil, but that was just the way this being was, and this being became the basis for all the myths.
You think it
Right.
influenced all the religions?
Yeah, there's that line where the Doctor says, "Oh, it's very common on other planets to share the same like look of a devil-like being." So I see this as this was an alien that influenced the cultures and the myths of many different.
I was thinking that maybe this being projects its consciousness throughout the universe, and that's why it has that look throughout the universe and through different planets, because it could project its consciousness outside of itself. So maybe it was just...
It could be.
It resonates.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I'm approaching it from the point of view of being that there is no devil. So it's like, oh, this is a good explanation for why the myth exists of an evil being. Is that, oh, there was an alien that influenced it.
Two things at the end. When the ship is kind of spiraling toward the black hole, it reminds me of Transformers, the movie, the animated one, where they're trying to escape Unicron. And then also at the end, when they're talking, is it the Doctor? And he's talking to the rocket ship, and they say end of line. That reminded me of Tron. I know everybody else picked that up.
You know, it sounded familiar, but I didn't catch from what.
The MCP.
Yeah.
I like that when the Doctor is saying Rose when they're on the other ship, she actually raises her hand. It's me,
Yes.
I'm over here. It's like, and she kind of puts it down. I don't know if it's in that was the silliness of,
Yeah.
oh, that's stupid, or just like she's just
The
so happy.
relief.
She's holding her head. But it was great that she put her hand
Yes.
up. I love that. That, to me, was a great little touch.
Yeah.
Other little weird things. I had mentioned last episode, like the amount of numbers, and this episode too, like when they were first running out of air. It was just weird. Ida told the Doctor, "Oh, we have 60 minutes," and then she looks and she says 55.
Oh yes,
And then the
they
very
used-
next scene,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, the Ood are going to get in this door in 10 minutes. No, 8.
Yeah.
Like,
As a joke.
it was just, yeah.
I took it as a joke.
Okay.
A repetitive. They should have done it one more
weird.
time for the rule of threes.
Sure. And then back to the 666, the station is Sanctuary Base 6.
6, yeah.
Which all of those letters, the S and the capital B and the 6, kind of all have the same shape of like that 6 shape within them. So if you look at their patches.
Oh, their patches look like SSS.
Well, they're like triangular, which is also kind of, has
been
like,
traditionally what that number, the mark of the beast, looks like.
So it's like all this stuff is almost there. Like I feel like this episode is almost superb, but there's all these little things that just don't allow it to get there.
It gets too conspiracy theory, weird 666 kind of thing that you can see it in everything.
Right. Like if they had focus, like I feel like it's almost like a J.J. Abrams kind of like a Lost, where like all these great ideas went into it, but nobody had like the through line
To follow it
take
through,
all these
yeah.
little pieces and make it a whole thing that had the impact that I think they wanted it to have.
And now I just got incredibly sad. Thank you.
Well, back to what you're saying about the numbers, during the TARDISode for this episode, the letters, like you mentioned, SB6, are displayed on the screen, and they change into the number 666
Oh, I see.
for the TARDISode.
Make the
Yeah, I'm
emblem
sure it
look
was
like a
intentional.
666.
Like everything feels like it's intentional. It just doesn't feel like it
Completed.
was completed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The black hole that he mentions here, the Doctor mentions that his people created black holes, and then that's a reference to the Eye of Harmony, which was in the TV movie, and the Deadly Assassin.
Yeah, collapsing black holes power the TARDISes.
Kind of like Romulan.
Yeah, kind of like
Warbird,
Romulans,
yeah.
yeah. Artificial singularities there.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to mention was the last scene where the Doctor and Rose are in the TARDIS and saying, "We were stuff of legends." That's the last scene they shot as Rose being her companion.
That was the last
the way
season.
they
That was the
shoot.
last scene of the season.
The way they shoot, they shoot them out of sequence depending, I guess, who they can get, what their schedules are, what sets they have. And so they already filmed the rest of the whole season, and this was the last one that they shot.
Because this one had like budgetary and scheduling conflicts, so that's probably why we're noticing all the I don't want to say deficiencies, but the with the sets and things, because they needed all that CG work to be done. So this was why this episode was chronologically the last episode to be filmed.
I gotta say, if the Satan character didn't look as good, that would have been worse than all the little things we're talking about.
But they were talking about possibly having him as an old man, possibly having him as just
A little
like
girl.
an eye, like the
A little
Eye of Sauron.
girl.
The little girl, which is always creepy in a lot of those movies.
Because we really are evil.
No, you
Go
made
for The Shining, those twins, and go for
The Ring, The
right.
Grudge.
The little boy in the Omen's terrifying too.
That's
so.
true. Children in general.
Yeah,
Sorry if you have them.
yeah. I'm
Really?
sorry if you have that.
So, does this episode live up to the promise of the first episode?
I think this episode does complete the promise of the first episode. You know, I mean, I don't think this is the greatest thing, but I do like them. I think better than Frank. But I think it certainly finishes off what was started in the Impossible Planet. I watch them. I won't skip them.
like I said, we watched these together again. And for last week, I'd rather move it from the third category to, from the fourth to the third, but we can't go back. But I did like it more this time. But still, the ending gets me. And like Auburn said, there's so many things that are not complete in ideas and not completely manifested through. That I think the ending, for me, ruins both episodes. So I say, no, it doesn't live up to it.
I understand.
I'm going to say for the first time ever that this second part does live up to the first part. And for a number of reasons, the threat of one gets wrapped up too quickly. Whereas this episode, so just the excitement and the energy, I think, from the first one, whereas like the first one to me actually didn't have that much energy. There's more energy in the second part. Whereas in the past, I feel like more energy is in the first part. But in this two-parter, more energy is in the second part, so I think it lives up. But yeah, I think it totally lives up. And Yeah, mostly just, yeah. Okay.
I feel like this episode does live up to the promise of the first, but I still think that, and I hope I said this last time, I would say it's for diehard fans. Like, it would be very hard to introduce somebody, in my mind, to Doctor Who with this.
Doctor Who diehard fans or just diehard fans?
Just, yeah.
Brian,
Coming
even
on,
though
have
I
some
feel
laughs.
like this lives up, I want to rewatch both of these as just be like, oh, I want to watch some Doctor Who. These are not the two episodes that I would turn to. If I were to watch, it would be only the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even just that scene.
I can understand that.
No, I mean, I think it connects well with the first episode, but only because they're both not quite there. Like, they just needed like another round of story notes or something. Just something is missing that just doesn't hit all the things that it needs to hit for me.
How would you feel if they took this episode and trimmed it? And what if it was just one episode?
Maybe, yeah, like maybe if it was just one episode, or if it maybe even like if there was a special like a director's cut or something where
Like a
I
90
feel
minute?
like, yeah, it just doesn't quite work.
Yeah, there's
and I don't know what
something
it is.
wrong about it.
Yeah.
So, no.
Well, I mean, I think it lives up to the first, but only because the
Gotcha.
first is also for
Yeah.
those who
Got it.
need to be the
Because
completionists.
the first was so bad.
But I mean, it's not like, I'm not even saying that they're bad. They're just, it's just something that's not quite right. They're not great, and I think they could have been great.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
So I didn't mind the first episode, just like watching it ignorantly, not looking at anything else. And like, I thought it set up a lot of cool, like demonic type things that
Yeah.
people are interested in. And then the conclusion made me sad. And then Frank influenced me this time, and now I dislike it a lot. So I would say, no, it doesn't live up
right.
to the first one. So usually I influence Frank,
Right.
but this time Frank influenced me. So
Cool.
I think it does. I mean, I kind of agree with all the points all around. I enjoy both these episodes. I don't think they're great. There's always something in almost everything. I just can enjoy the Doctor's adventures, but I looking at it as just one story, I agree with you. I think this time it works better because it feels like the same story, not one story answering another story's question.
That was him agreeing with me, Kelsey.
I do agree that this does live up to the first, and it completes the story that they're trying to tell. You know, if you're looking at it that aspect. But then other things that kind of push me over the edge with this is that in the first episode, you have the death of Scooty, and she's floating in a water tank, and that's how they filmed her in zero gravity. And to me, that one doesn't look as good as Toby flying out of the rocket ship. They like kind of perfected that effect. So that one looks better to me.
I didn't even like that one either.
Oh, I think, compared to the one with Scooty, this one looks better to me.
I like the one with Scooty.
It didn't feel as fluid.
But she's in water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Pun
why.
intended.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then I just like the introduction of the Impossible Planet theme, and I like how it carries us throughout
When's the
the.
first time we heard that music?
the rule of three.
Right.
And the other thing that I just like dealing and tackling these issues of religion and mythology, and then exploring it in a sci-fi aspect. And to me,
Yeah.
that stretches my mind a little bit, and I like that. But this one was more overt, so it wasn't like subtle, and so that's what I liked about it.
If you enjoyed these two episodes, watch Babylon 5.
So that's the episode I should watch? Is that what I should start
It's a
with?
series you should
It's
watch.
a series you should watch if you like religion and culture and myth.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear from you. Do you feel like the inconsistencies of this episode completely took you out of the story and ruined the whole episode? Or do you think that they were overshadowed by the broader themes of this episode?
Let us know. Email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys when the future becomes the present.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
You can find his work at
theuniverseexplodes.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell.
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord. Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
And yeah, there's that because that.
Nobody?
Sorry.
We'll need to edit that. Josh and Frank.
Leave out the people.
This
Leave out the
is
people.
hard.
Just
just gonna let
explain
it go.
this. Just explain.
So we're done.